Elmer Stewart from Copper Fox Metals. First of all, before we get started, what's your symbol? What exchange are you on?
Our symbol is CUU, and we are traded on the Toronto Venture Exchange.
You know, one of the most interesting things that I note about you and your team, I'll get you to explain a little bit who your team is how focused you are on copper. Like, I don't think that there's anything that you've talked to me about copper that you don't know and know firsthand. Why is it from an investor's perspective so fundamental that they can appreciate and understand the depth of knowledge that you have in the metal itself and what the market is? Well, I'm asking you to blow your own horn here a little bit.
I don't expect the average person on the street to understand the industry and where the industry is going as much as I do, because I do spend a lot of time following trends, because to be successful, you got to be able to figure out where the trend is taking you. Mm-hmm. But if you're asking me why we're in the copper space, well, that's a very simple answer. I think the demand for copper is going to keep rising for various reasons, like the Green Initiative, replacement of infrastructure, emerging economies, growing economies, replacement concepts and things like that. The issue is, as we've talked about earlier, where is the copper coming from? People, the pundits will say we have this is the lowest amount of development projects have been in the pipeline for decades. Head grades are declining, longer lead times, exploration discoveries are declining rapidly, even though we're spending more money, we're finding less. And simply, historical will show you one prospect in 10,000 will get through the feasibility stage.
1 in 10,000?
1 in 10,000.
What's the current consumption in the marketplace right now, and what's it projected to grow over the next year or two?
Right now the consumption is approximately about 23 million tons of copper, and that's the copper metal. And the conservative projection is about 2%. Some people will say it's 3, some people say it's 6. Now,
and that's on an annual basis,
on
right?
an annual basis, yeah. So to quantify that, if you consume 23 million tons of copper, it increases by 2%, you need 460,000 new tons of copper coming into the market, and we don't have the mines to do that. It's as simple as that, and there are projects on the table that will do that, but that is compounded annually. Mm-hmm. So if you look at it, it's not a very good forecast for the supply of copper. It's great for the demand side, but not the supply side.
Well, I wonder whether or not those estimates might be a little bit low too, because if we see the growing interest and production of electric vehicles, because they will consume a lot of copper,
absolutely,
much more so than the standard gasoline-powered vehicle, and then there are emerging economies, and they need the copper for every aspect of life, from industry through to somebody being able to turn on the light with a switch.
Well, you're absolutely correct, because the Green Initiative is a new initiative, and it depends. Some people are forecasting it's going to require 1 million tons of copper a year. That is in addition.
Just for the green economy.
Just the green economy. That's in addition to the consumption that happens outside the Green Initiative. Mm-hmm. Now, if the emerging economies start to pick up and grow, and they are all seen to be growing at the same time, which is good for the world because of the requirements goes, that will add more demand. But it gets back to the same thing. Where are you going to find it? Now, price will allow mining of lower grade, but deposits are only finite.
Yes.
They only go so far, and then they're done. And if you look at some of the forecasts, whether they're accurate or not, they're forecasting now, international copper study groups are forecasting by the year 2035, 200 mines will go out of production because they are depleted. So 2032, that gives you 13 years, 200 mines. You're talking what, 13 mines a year?
That need to be replaced to keep up with current demand, not necessarily increased demand.
Sure. Yep, that's exactly. And if that forecast is correct, then the only conclusion you can draw is we have to find more copper. And it's not because we haven't been spending money. They're getting harder to find, they're getting deeper, even though there's really big advances in the exploration way to look deeper and deeper and deeper, it gets right down to the amount of cost. And the deeper you have to look, the less chance you have of making a discovery.
So you have about 5 projects sort of in different stages of development at this point. let's start with your number one up in northeastern British Columbia, the
Shaft Creek.
Shaft Creek project. Tell me a little bit about that, and you've got a pretty good joint venture partner on that one.
We're very lucky to have Teck as our joint venture partner.
That's
because a project gets to that size, you got to know when to fold them. And the fact that Teck came in and backed in and exercised their back-in rights, that I think was a real good thing to happen to Copper Fox and for the Shaft Creek project, because we took it as far as we could from a technical standpoint.
Yeah,
Teck will be able to take it further should it deserve to go further. It's a big project. It's an advanced stage development project. It's minimum approximately 1.6, 1.8 billion tons of mineralized rock. We don't know how big it is. It's a district play, and it's those kind of projects that could last for decades, which is what the majors are particularly looking at.
So when you attract a partner like Teck, in a way, it is the ultimate validation of your ability to identify a potential resource. Okay, I'm asking you to blow your own horn again.
No, we didn't attract Teck. Copper Fox got the project by way of an option agreement from Teck in 2002.
Oh, really?
And to Teck being astute, what they did was, okay, you have to do this, this, and this, and the ultimate thing you have to do is deliver a feasibility study, and when you do, we have the right to back in for up to 75% of the project. So they were thinking ahead about preserving a right to back in. So when I became involved in Copper Fox in 2009, we pushed through to the feasibility stage because our investors and shareholders say, well, what's Teck going to do? Well, I don't know what Teck's going to do because I just don't. So we did a feasibility study. We took a conservative approach to it. We gave Teck the study, and they said, well, we're coming back in, and we're coming in for 75%, so let's start negotiating the joint venture. And the fact that we did the study that was conservative enough, that was good enough for them to warrant coming back in, I think that for us was a major win.
Well, is it not once again confirmation though about your ability to confirm that resource is there?
And it's almost the end game now in our strategy of acquiring exploration projects, taking them through the development stage, and then finding a partner to do something with them. And that is our strategy. We don't want to be in the mining business, but we'd like to take projects to a stage because we feel comfortable doing that. But our end audience is always going to be a copper producer. And that's
always
only
copper.
Only copper. And in North America, only in North America.
Why? Why do you want to stay only in North America? Because we hear about people, going out researching global opportunities, but you say, no, we're going to be disciplined and stay here in North America. What's the reason?
Well, I've got a lot of experience international. I have South America, Central Asia, Africa, worked in Australia for a while, did some Philippine work, Mexico. And when I came back to Canada, or took on this job of Copper Fox, North America has two porphyry copper districts. One is in the Laramide of southwestern United States, i.e. Arizona, and the other is northern British Columbia. Copper Fox already had a position in Shaft Creek because they were the operator, subject to Teck exercising the back end. So one of the things I did was said, I don't like companies that only have one project. Project fails, company will fail. So I convinced the board, so we took on some other assets. We looked in northern BC because we think there's other deposits to be found there, and in Arizona we think there are deposits to be found there. For example, our Mineral Mountain project in Arizona, 2015, it was an acquisition we did, and we now have a porphyry target there that's 4,500 meters long, 2,000 meters wide, and it's got all the characteristics of porphyry copper system. Disseminated copper moly mineralization in a big area. We've got the B veins, we got the D veins on surface. We haven't found the A veins. Maybe we have a lot of fracture control mineralization and potassic alteration and a great 62 million year old laramide intrusion. So what we've done, we've de-risked the company from a portfolio prospect, and you're almost like a prospect generator. You do some work, you move the project along. The question is, when do we execute the strategy? And by taking Shaft Creek and moving it into Teck, that is almost the completion of the execution of our strategy. Ultimately, it would be when we would be able to dispose of our interest in Shaft Creek.
And then move on
and then
to
we
once
will
again
take the
identify
next one.
other opportunities.
Yes, And so that would be Van Dyke, which is in Arizona. It's an ISL project. It's at the preliminary economic assessment stage. We could move that along, but then we have a gap in our portfolio. So then we got to go and find another project. And they're not easy, because since 2013, we've looked at about 80 copper projects, and we've only taken on one out of 80.
Only one?
One. Because
Holy smokes.
the people we have are all experienced in mining operations. My career has spanned from exploration through discovery all the way through to production. The mining engineer I use, he has got the same background. We have access to very knowledgeable metallurgical engineers, resource people, environmental people, and we use them all the time, because when we take a look at a project, we do a very deep due diligence. Why? Because we try to identify the fatal flaw, because what is the use of buying somebody else's problem? The worst you're going to end up with is the project goes nowhere, but you still have the environmental liability to reclaim the project. And we are very concerned about that. We want to find projects, but they have to pass the very rigorous due diligence process. And if they don't, we're not interested in them. We're not in a rush just to find a project.
So we've talked about your top 2 projects at the moment. You got 3 more, right?
We have an investment in a porphyry project in northern BC. That's through another company, another publicly traded company. It's a good exploration stage project, but we have 2 projects in Arizona, and these are what we call laramide porphyry copper systems. Mineral Mountain probably being the most advanced of the 2 right now, depending what you think. But we also have another one called Sombrero Butte, which is about 1.5 miles south of the Copper Creek deposit, and we have mineralization, geophysical target. It's at the drill ready stage already, and the reason why we have those is because you can create a lot of value through exploration. And just drill a discovery hole and see how the industry looks at your company vis-a-vis when you don't have that.
When you're talking to a potential investor who's saying, well, why should I put my money into your company? What do you tell them that gives them that sense that this is a sound investment for me, despite the fact that you're such an early stage company?
Well, I don't give investment advice based on the advice of my lawyer. But no,
but you do talk to people, and they've got questions.
We do, and I answer their questions as best I can. But here's the thing: Copper Fox is primarily set up for, if you're interested in taking an equity position in the copper space, well, then you should look at Copper Fox. I think there's a very compelling case there, and for the following reasons. We've got a good balanced portfolio of properties. Our most advanced property is in the hands of a very good operator, and we have a carried joint venture interest. So we also have a second development stage project, which is our Van Dyke project. And if you put those 2 projects together based on the 2013 study for Shaft Creek and the 2015 study for Van Dyke, you've got a net asset value of around 92 cents a share. Now, the market doesn't reflect that right now. But in addition to that, you've got real upside on making an exploration discovery either on Sombrero Butte, Mineral Mountain, or that company we have the investment in northern British Columbia. They could make a significant discovery. That would be more adding value to our company. So if you look at it, the other thing is we have like I've already gone over the deep technical knowledge of the people. But our shareholders, 58% of the company is owned by the insiders. And
you're
invested in it. And we have a major shareholder, and he's a long-term bull on copper and gold. So he likes what we're doing. But the thing is, it's all value driven, and in the end, shareholders have been really good. But the bottom line is, it's like we think we've de-risked the project so much. And if you talk to some of these traders, they look at these asymmetrical trades. Now, I'm not so sure what that means to me. But if you read what they say, well, there's low risk, there's high reward. And if you're coming into a copper cycle like we did in 2009, we went from 5 cents to $2.71 because we caught the leading edge of a copper cycle. If we're coming into another copper cycle, can history be repeated? Possibly. But we are a far more different company now than we were in 2009.
one of the things that I think I like about you is the fact that you've had a long and successful career. You remain incredibly enthusiastic about this company and what the future of copper looks like.
Well, I do, because I've been in the industry now, I think 43, 44 years, and I still like waking up in the morning and going to work. I still find the industry very fascinating. We've created a portfolio of assets, and I'm pretty certain we can increase the value of that.
Yep.
And so yeah, and I like getting things done. I like getting up in the morning. I like to get things done. Sometimes it's not so easy when the commodity cycle goes against you, but you gotta. I don't know how to describe it. You just get out there and try to get the job done.
Well, that in itself is a fantastic testimonial, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
thank you very much for sharing this.
Good.